The story of Ruth and Naomi is found in the book of Ruth in the Bible. It takes place during the time of the Judges, a turbulent period in Israel's history when the nation often strayed from God's commandments. The narrative begins with a severe famine in Bethlehem, leading a man named Elimelech, his wife Naomi, and their two sons, Mahlon and Chilion, to migrate to Moab, a neighboring country. Naomi and her family settled in Moab to escape the famine. However, their stay was marked by a series of tragedies. 1. Death of Elimelech. Soon after their arrival in Moab, Naomi's husband, Elimelech, died, leaving her as a widow in a foreign land. 2. Marriages of Mahlon and Chilion. Naomi's sons married Moabite women. Mahlon married Ruth, and Chilion married Orpah. This union was unconventional for Israelites, as Moabites were traditionally viewed as outsiders to God's covenant. 3. More losses. After about 10 years, both Mahlon and Chilion died, leaving Naomi, Ruth, and Orpah as widows. Naomi was now bereft of her husband and sons, with no male heir to carry on the family name or provide protection. Naomi, feeling bitter and forsaken, decided to return to Bethlehem. She heard that the Lord had visited his people and provided food. Her hope lay in her homeland, though her future seemed bleak. Naomi urged her daughters-in-law to return to their families in Moab. She believed they would have better chances of remarriage and a stable life among their own people. After initial hesitation, Orpah kissed Naomi goodbye and returned to her people and gods. Ruth, however, clung to Naomi and made one of the most beautiful declarations of loyalty in Scripture. "Do not urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried." Ruth 1 verses 16 to 17. Ruth's words reflected not just loyalty to Naomi but also her commitment to the God of Israel, forsaking the gods of Moab. Naomi and Ruth journeyed to Bethlehem. Their arrival caused a stir in the town. Naomi, overwhelmed with grief, told the people to call her Mara, meaning bitter, instead of Naomi, meaning pleasant, for she believed the Lord had dealt bitterly with her. It was the beginning of the barley harvest, offering a glimmer of hope. To provide for Naomi and herself, Ruth went to glean in the fields. By divine providence, she ended up in the field of Boaz, a wealthy and kind man who was a relative of Elimelech. Boaz noticed Ruth's hard work and inquired about her. Upon learning of her loyalty to Naomi, he showed her favor. He instructed his workers to allow Ruth to glean among the sheaves. He ensured her safety and provided her with water and food. When Ruth returned home with an abundance of grain, Naomi recognized Boaz as a potential kinsman redeemer, someone who could marry Ruth to preserve Elimelech's family line. Naomi devised a plan for Ruth to approach Boaz at the threshing floor, a place where grain was processed. Following Naomi's instructions, Ruth lay at Boaz's feet and asked him to spread the corner of his garment over her, symbolizing a request for marriage and protection. Boaz was moved by Ruth's virtue and loyalty. He agreed to fulfill his role as a kinsman redeemer but mentioned there was a closer relative who had the first right to redeem. Boaz approached the closer relative at the town gate, where legal transactions were conducted. The relative declined to redeem the land and marry Ruth, fearing it would jeopardize his inheritance. Boaz officially redeemed Naomi's property and took Ruth as his wife. Ruth and Boaz had a son named Obed. Naomi's sorrow turned to joy as she cared for her grandson. Obed became the grandfather of King David, placing Ruth, a Moabite, in the lineage of Jesus Christ. Lessons from the story of Ruth and Naomi. 1. Loyalty and love. Ruth's steadfast loyalty to Naomi demonstrates the power of love and commitment, even in the face of hardship. 2. Faith in God. Naomi's return to Bethlehem and Ruth's embrace of the God of Israel show faith in God's providence, even in despair. 3. God's providence. The story highlights how God orchestrates events for his purposes, turning tragedy into triumph. 4. Inclusiveness of God's kingdom. Ruth, a foreigner, became part of God's redemptive plan, showcasing his grace and the inclusiveness of his love. 5. The role of a redeemer. Boaz's role as a kinsman redeemer foreshadows Christ, our ultimate redeemer, who restores and renews. The story of Ruth and Naomi is a profound narrative of faith, family, and God's redemptive power, reminding us that He can transform even the most difficult circumstances into blessings.